Say, Joe, do you want to see my best Jay Mascis impersonation?
Sure.
All right, hey guys, welcome to my channel, Tune Fever TV. I have with me my friend Joe. Say hello.
Hello.
That's Joe saying hello all the way from Colorado. Man, that's slick. We are doing a Dinosaur Jr. ranking video today, as you can see on the screen. So before watching the video, please give it a like because I'm predicting ahead of time that you're gonna like this video. Yes, and so what we're gonna do now is just kind of introduce how we're gonna go about this. So we're gonna go in order from the last place to the first place. As you can see, we have a few rows of all of their CDs. The top one's gonna stay there next to all the dates, just so you can see when they all came out chronologically. The bottom two rows we're gonna be placing onto the chart so you can see our rankings as we go along. And we're gonna be just explaining kind of why we put them in those positions. Not terribly complicated, but first thing, let's introduce the concept of what a Dinosaur Jr. is. A Dinosaur Jr. is a band that hails from like Amherst, Boston, Massachusetts. And they kind of originated as this band, Deep Wound, in kind of the Boston hardcore scene, hardcore punk scene. And then that band sort of fizzled out. Two of the members of that band are Jay Mascis, who played drums in that band, and Lou Barlow, who played bass in that band. And they together had this buddy, Murph, who became the drummer of Dinosaur Jr. And Jay Mascis sort of, I would imagine kind of begrudgingly, because he likes to play drums better than guitar, Jay Mascis went from drums and he played guitar and sang for Dinosaur Jr. And so you've got these three guys, and they kind of had this initial concept that they wanted to make ear-bleeding country, is what they said, which is sort of a joke, but I think it is an interesting point to kind of just touch down on here as an introduction, because one of the things Dinosaur Jr. is well known for is being just the loudest band. And if you see them play live or any of that, you'll notice that Jay Mascis behind him has the most massive stacks of Marshall stuff stacked up behind him, like 3 pillars of just Marshall stacks, and is rather epic. The pedal board is pretty intense that he uses, and he's really kind of the brain of the operation. He writes the songs, he writes the drum parts and the guitar parts and the lyrics. And now Lou Barlow, the bass player, he does write several songs in the Dinosaur Jr. discography as well. And so as you're going through a lot of their CDs, most of them will be songs that Jay is singing, but usually a couple of them will be songs that Lou is singing, and those are the ones that he wrote, and those are kind of his writing and his conception. Those are his contributions to those albums, as well as the bass parts that he does. Really, really awesome bass parts. And when you watch interviews about Dinosaur Jr., there's some that talk about like, so Lou, you're playing bass in the loudest band. Like, how do you even approach that? And it's basically like, well, first he mentions he has to protect himself. I think in one interview he said he was trying to find toilet paper to stuff in his ears. And I don't know, it's just funny. But his bass playing style really kind of developed out of this necessity to be heard, because in this band with screechingly, blaringly loud guitars, you in order to have and find some kind of presence in the music, really out of necessity, you have to find a way to be heard. And so the bass playing is a whole style that's really just built from the ground up for Dinosaur Jr., which is so cool. So the bass playing all over the entire discography is wicked. Now, there is something to be said. Lou doesn't play bass on every album. There's sort of and Murphy doesn't play drums on every album either. There's sort of a break in the middle. And as you can see here on our chronology of their discography, there's 1997 to 2007. So there was a hiatus in between where they just didn't really do anything. But then they came back with a vengeance with that album right there in 2007. And but before then, sort of probably like Green Mindish through Handed Over-ish, that 91 through 97, Lou Barlow didn't play in the band, but he did play before and after that. And so they started with their original lineup, and then they're right now still with their original lineup with that gap in the middle. And Dinosaur Jr., just, I mean, they're sort of part of that scene there in sort of the late 80s and 90s where it was kind of pushing grunge a lot into a more mainstream audience that is pretty much something that the music industry still hasn't really recovered from. It shook them up pretty hard. And you know, there was other bands too, the Nirvana, there, you know, I could name bands, but Dinosaur Jr. is one of those really important bands, and they just have an insanely unique sound. There's no band like this band, and also their incredible consistency over their entire career as a band, mind-blowing. And so they're one of my favorite bands. I've got my shirt on, my Feel the Pain shirt on today. And I think I just want to talk about kind of, so Joe, why do you like the band Dinosaur Jr.?
Oh man. If I said everything I like about Dinosaur Jr., we'd never get to the actual albums. I play bass, so of course I love the bass playing, kind of what you already said. I like all the, I mean, well, it's interesting because we'll talk about later on things I used to not like about them being the noise, but now I really like all the noise, the walls of sound. You mentioned the stacks of the Marshall amps. I like how they came back with the original lineup. I like everything. I will also say they're probably one of my favorite bands. I love the consistency. We'll get to it. Even the album I put dead last, I think is still pretty great. Like with some of the other bands we've done, like, you know, you have there's like maybe one or two few albums I don't like, and then they progressively get better. Then there's like a few that are like really awesome. But with this band, and we'll see how many albums I think are just completely mind-blowing, up here, just amazing. And yeah, we'll get there. But they have because it's almost like the boundary or like the threshold of like good music. Like you have a band, and when all their albums are up here, like what do you make of that, or how do you think through that? I've never really experienced that before going through a discography. So yeah, I really like this band. Part of going through them is wanting to own all of them on compact disc, and I own almost all of them now, which is exciting. Yeah. So yeah.
Dude, good stuff. Absolutely concur. Some reasons that I love Dinosaur Jr. to add to the list that you've been making. I love that they're making sort of the loudest, noisiest, harshest rock music at the same time as it's some of the most heartfelt and beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
It's an interesting dichotomy that takes place with
It's
Dinosaur
ridiculous.
Jr. all over.
Yeah, like you said, it's like nothing else.
Yeah, man. And it's so consistently that way. And so I would say that is my favorite sort of aspect of the band. You know, the playing itself is really interesting from each one of the musicians. I would say that the drums are a workout every song, and he's relentless. Murph is relentless. When he's gonna play a drum part, he's the least timid ever. He's the least timid. He's gonna just smack the crap out of everything. And so he's a great drummer. And Jay Mascis, of course, was with his guitar playing and his singing style, which that's sort of a pill to swallow, as we'll probably talk about through the discography. But once you swallow that pill, and of course, as Joe was saying, once you kind of swallow the noise pill of Dinosaur Jr., once you just kind of get acclimated to that, maybe sort of an acquired taste type of thing, Dinosaur Jr. really kind of becomes just beautiful, just beautiful. I mean, when you think about certain songs, like the song "Freak Scene," let's just name drop a song real quick. That song is the perfect misfit love song, the perfect misfit love song, and it rocks so hard at the same time as it's like, aw, that is literally the cutest lyric. Like the whole song is just so cute, you know, and a lot of their music is very, I would say, organic as well. It's just a really genuine expression of who they are as people. And they do things in very organic ways too, like their recording process. As far as I know, they're almost always recording to tape, which that's sort of an anomaly nowadays. But that's just been the way they've done things. And several of their albums they recorded with the same dude, same engineer, same producer, same all that stuff. It's just been the way they do things because they're really comfortable with it, and so they're expressing themselves just in these really organic ways and doing things just how they know how to do it. And they're the experiments they take, I would say, are musical experiments. So they get comfortable with who they are as people and with the way they like to do things, and then they write songs that challenge them as players and as people. And then they challenge the audiences whenever the albums come out. And it's one of the reasons that myself and probably Joe and several other people really love this band. To me, they're just one of the most important bands. And even right now, you can see they had an album that came out in 2021, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. They're I mean, so many positive things to say even now. And how many bands can you really name that have been going since Dinosaur Jr., which they started in 1984 with their first release there in 85? How many bands can you really say have been consistently good for whatever period of time this is? Well, I don't know, like almost 40 years or something like that, I guess. It's rather incredible. All right, so without much further ado, let's get right into this. That's what I think. So last on my list, but first on our rankings, I'm gonna put my least favorite album is "I Bet on Sky."
Okay. So my least favorite is, and again, I still think it's pretty good. Green Mind.
Yeah. All right. Green Mind. Cool. Okay. So let me kind of give some of my thoughts about "I Bet on Sky." Something that I will say about this album is that I think that some of the experiments that they take do not land very well for me. They're not incredibly successful. They don't suck. They don't suck. And you know, in particular, I guess I'm talking about sort of the first several tracks on the album. The album kind of takes a while to really land for me. But then there's some songs as you get sort of into the latter half of the album where that is essential Dinosaur Jr. that everyone needs to know who listens to Dinosaur Jr. And so I would just say that this album is weirder in terms of the experiments that they attempt. And I don't think it's as successful for that reason. But I mean, I really need to go out and buy this CD. This is one of them that I don't have. Me and Joe have our CDs next to us, and as they come up, we'll just show you the ones that we have. But yeah, so that's sort of my general opinion about "I Bet on Sky." And so, Joe, I guess, are you terribly insulted by me putting it in last place?
No, I will obviously I put it higher, but I'll talk about it. I agree with everything you said. We're like exact. But yeah, and I'll get there. Do you have more to say about "I Bet on Sky"?
No, not necessarily. We'll go ahead and let you talk about Green Mind.
Okay, Green Mind. So this is my first disc. Wait, there's
Ah.
like a glare. This is Green Mind. So this is I'm still really glad I own this. I actually this summer I drove up to Illinois to visit my cousin Caleb, who's one of my best friends, and we drove up to Chicago, and I found a record store there, and I bought this in Chicago, which is really, I don't know, it's just really exciting, really cool, I guess, a memory for me. Because yeah, I cool, because Caleb's like most people, he's not into CDs. So the fact that I was able to go to a record store at all was cool. And then the fact that I found this, because yeah, it was one I was looking for. Yeah, I'm all over the place with this one. Wait, let me find. I've got my notes on my phone. I was just looking at I Bet on Sky. I have a ton of notes. Here it is. So, and also you talk about the lineup of Dinosaur Jr. being that this is pretty much a Jay Mascis solo album. I think Murph played on a few songs,
Yeah.
But most of it Jay Mascis, which isn't a bad thing. It's just Jay Mascis played all, like pretty much all the instruments, which again isn't inherently bad. It's just it's interesting because you, I think we both like the lineup of the three. They make it happen. Yeah, I'm all over. I really like. Okay, so let's talk about Essential Dinosaur Jr. It's kind of we talked about. I love Flying Cloud. It's so transcendent and I guess spiritual. I really like Thumb with the flutes. It works. I dig it. And then the other songs like what's it, Puke and Cry, with that like acoustic groove, like come on down, dun, dun, and a few other songs that like what's the one, the Wagon, is it Muck? Is that the other one? I'm trying to remember all these songs. There's like 400 songs in my head. Yeah, but then there's other ones where something about this album is just off. Like you have Blowing It and Live for That Look, which I feel like are like the same song, because they go into each other. Where it's like at first I listened to it, I thought the bass was too quiet, but actually, wait, is that it? Actually, no, that's sorry. Blowing It and Live for That Look, they're doing the acoustic, but they're trying to play really heavy, which is usually something on other albums Dinosaur Jr. is phenomenal at, and I love it. But here there's like this disconnect, I guess. It's still good. It's just kind of off for me. Also, I promise I won't hit every song on the other albums, but on this one, I'm so all over. I want to just briefly mention most of the songs, I guess.
You should be sorry. No, just kidding. You're totally fine. Keep going.
So it's yeah, Water and Muck. Wait, no, dang it, why am I getting these mixed up? This is the one I made sure I knew all the songs. Now I'm looking at my notes, so I'm not remembering things. How Would You Pin That on Me and Water again are pretty nice, but that's the one I listened to it and I thought the bass was too quiet, and then I listened again and I thought the guitar was too quiet, like in the mix, and it's like, so I don't know, something about this is just, it's I guess just the clash between acoustic and being really heavy, being really hard hitting. But yeah, I guess this has a few problems for me, but it still has stuff on it that I love. I guess I'm left wanting something more, I guess is my take. Again, I still like it. And the fact that this is their last place, I'm having to like nitpick through it to find my last place album, shows you just how great, how awesome this band is. So yeah, I think those are my thoughts on Green Mind.
Cool. Well, out of everything you just said, you only said one thing that made me mad. So that's good.
Oh,
but
I'm surprised.
and I'll of course talk about what that is whenever I get to this album. But there's two things about what you said that I wanted to sort of say something about. Number one, you mentioned that you like the flutes, I think on Thumb, right?
Uh-huh.
I think that's the track. So in general, I just think more rock music should have flutes. There is a lot of really good examples of rock music with flutes where it just rocks. It's just a really good sounding thing. So the second thing that I wanted to say is you mentioned you and I both really like the original lineup. And I want to talk about why. And I guess one of the reasons for me that I like the original lineup so much, which of course you kind of miss on Green Mind. One of the reasons I like it is because there's so much tension between the members of this band. They're the level of friends where they just kind of fight constantly about everything, but they're close. And I think you can really hear it in their music. They're sort of battling for territory in a similar way that like the Police do. And it's not,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's as egotistical as it is with the Police, but I would say that you can hear it in the music. You can hear the sort of tension of I'm outplaying you. And so, or someone feeling that they're getting outplayed. And so they kind of step it up a little bit here and there and like making sure that they always have a presence in the music because it's just so loud that it sounds like they're fighting with each other all the time. Now on Green Mind, it's like you said, they're doing that acoustic thing, but it's also really loud. Um, and I think that you miss the three of them playing together when they're doing this stuff. And so this acoustic loud thing lands better elsewhere a lot in a lot of cases. And so I think that's pretty fair criticism that I certainly find myself, but I don't want to say too much about Green Mind at this point. But and so I guess, is there any reason why you thought you liked the original lineup? It could be something we've already said too, but just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, we'll get there. And I didn't wasn't on my mind as much, but you're right. The tension of the band, how, well, also I guess it's kind of similar to Rush, I guess, where it's like all three of them are just amazing, crazy musicians, and so how that chemistry, all three of them together, is something I really love. It's yeah, it's just the because like individual performances, I guess, or talent, I guess, how well they play on their own, but then together on some of the albums that I like, my number one album, for example, which I won't say yet, but like, yeah, I guess, well, now I've may have revealed what lineup is on my number one album, so I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah,
Dang
that's
it.
all right. Hey, but something else I did kind of want to say about the original lineup that I just thought of is just that I think being in a band with Jay Mascis, who's just that level of superstar, with everything, I think that if you're gonna be in that band, Jay Mascis is not gonna tame what he's doing for you. What he's gonna do is he's gonna say, if you want to be heard, then do something about it. And so I think you have Lou and Murph on the drums stepping up to that challenge, and they're so good. And I think in a lot of ways, you can only play like they play in Dinosaur Jr. You can only do that in Dinosaur Jr.
Yep.
It's very much Lou Barlow has to play in such a way just to stand up, but also Lou is very concerned with artistry and writing really cool bass parts, and so he's got to be blisteringly loud at the same time as artful and with subtlety,
Yep.
and he really does that. He sounds just like an awesome bass player all over the discography. And then with Murph, I would say you have to like always be right on the verge of aneurysm to be that solid in this band, because that dude, like, he's just so solid, and you have to be. But when you watch them play live, as well as when you hear him on the album, that dude doesn't miss a beat. He's on top of everything, and I can imagine that he's very stressed out often, but he's always doing it right. So that's just some things that I wanted to touch on. Let's go ahead and move on to number 11, I think.
Oh, also one more thing. I should have said this earlier. I love that, again, you mentioned the Police, because that's another band where it's a trio, and all three of them individually are like crazy. I love the Police. They're awesome. And then the albums they put out, like I guess combining their talents in the same way is like, yeah, it's I really like most of the Police albums.
Most. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll have
man.
to watch like a Police video.
Yeah, we'll have to. Let's do number 11. My number 11 is Good Old Farm.
I thought you'd put that a lot higher. I'm surprised.
Huh, okay.
My number 11 is I Bet on Sky.
Ah, okay. Okay, you go first.
Okay, so I do have this one, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I trying to remember where I got it. I don't know. I got it somewhere. Anyway, um, so wait, let me get to my notes here. I have so let's see if I remember what songs I'm talking about on this one. No, this one is easier because it's easier to work through. Because like Tyler said, the first half, I still like the first half, but I agree that they're they're I guess a number of things. They're really embracing that. You talk about them the ear bleeding country or them being like the world's loudest country band, but there's more country rock on this first half, which I think other times in other places it works. It's great, but here again something's off. I guess the what I want to discuss is almost fair, which is really playful, but it almost sounds like it was made for kids. It's really weird. Like if I was not like VBS, but something in like that vein, I guess. And also, but then you get to the song "I Know It Oh So Well," and this song rocks. This song is I love this song. It's like the funk rock, I guess.
Yeah, like
And
the
then
wah.
after that, what'd you say?
I said with like the wah.
Uh-huh. And then after that, it's like they flip a switch. The second half of this album is amazing.
Yep.
Um, it's just, yeah, I really like it. And like you said, everyone needs to hear it.
Yep.
So the reason I put this, because this one and Green Mind for me, like both of them are you have like half an album and then half an album that's very, very good and half an album that's still good, but not like up there. At least how it is for me. The reason I put this one higher is because like I know like Green Mind, I'm jumping through songs, I guess, but I bet on Sky, it's like I can just play the second half and love it. And also Green Mind is the I guess problematic or the problems I mentioned with it. On I Bet on Sky, it's almost funny. Like the song Rude, which is one that Lou Barlow sings. You talked about him writing and singing songs. And I can imagine this like your cowboy, riding a horse across the west in the sunset. But you've got this like buzzing guitar, just like the song. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's trying to think of what else I have to say. Yeah, I love I Know It Oh So Well. I think it's all I like that, a funk rock, I guess. So that's cool. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I guess I'll say that you mentioned the song "I Know It Oh So Well." That's also my favorite song on the album, and so I'm in agreement with you there. And of course, we're in agreement about that second half being really quite good. Yeah, so that's cool. We're not too far off apparently on I Bet on Sky as far as our opinions go. Okay, I'll talk about Farm. I think that Farm has like the sound of Dinosaur Jr. without any of the subtlety, and I miss it. For example, I think that riffs are generally lacking. We have chords, we have loudness, we have harshness, we have noise, but we don't really have riffs often. Now there are riffs, but I think that it's lacking in that. And then I also think sort of topically, it's sort of meandering. It's like looking for something to say, but they don't have that much to say. And so I would say topically, it's a little bit weaker to me. Now, a lot of the soloing on this album, some of it's like some of the best. In particular, I really, really like the song Ocean in the Way, how it gets so quiet. And also the solos are really, really good. I think that that's probably my favorite on the album. Maybe just in terms of creativity, which I guess is something that I think this album's generally a little more lacking in than other Dinosaur albums. I think Ocean in the Way is my favorite in terms of that. But like I said, this album really does maintain that, like, when you think of Dinosaur Jr., what's the sound? This album does maintain that, just in less creative ways. That's sort of my general thoughts about this project.
Yeah.
Mm. So, you said that you were a little bit surprised I rated it so low. Um, I think that's interesting. Why are you surprised?
Um, well, I'll try to give my opinions about it.
Mm.
The How heavy it is, how dense it is. I thought that was something you would gravitate towards. I'm not necessarily sure why.
Sure.
Um, Yeah, I don't know. I think it's, I guess maybe it's something where just how heavy it is, something would, I guess, stick out to you. And of course, obviously Dinosaur Jr. is not a metal band, but like your what am I going your YouTube series with metal, your
Sure.
likeness towards the really loud stuff, which I mean they do really well on a lot of their albums for sure. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that might be it.
So you know my personal taste, and so you're surprised to see this low. That makes perfect sense. But I will say I like this one absolutely enough to own it and listen to it. So this is one that I have.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean this. I would say that this album is a good album. It's just fairly low on my Dinosaur Jr.
High.
list. I mean, when you're talking about a band like Dinosaur Jr., something's got to be down here, you know. And
Yep.
and honestly, I think that when I'm comparing the bottom two on my list, I Bet on Sky versus Farm, I think that I Bet on Sky is a significantly weaker project than Farm. I think Farm is a massive jump up compared. And of course, these are sort of those in the like reunion of the three band members, starting in 2007 with Beyond, and then it was Farm, and then it was this I Bet on Sky, and so they're all like, in my head, I sort of group them together as three things that are rather comparable, and I would just say that these two disappointed me, you know,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but they're still good, and especially Farm. It's a good album, so I have it. But yeah,
Good.
I think. Oh, and you know what? We keep saying ear bleeding country. I need to show this.
Oh
So
yeah.
this is the Dinosaur Jr. Greatest Hits album that we both have,
Yeah.
which is called "The Best of Dinosaur Jr. Ear Bleeding Country." And just because we keep saying it, here it is. Um, all right, cool. So let's go on to number 10.
Yeah.
So my number 10 is Green Mind. Yeah.
My, give me a sec. My number 10 is, it's a long title. Give a glimpse of what you're not.
Okay. I can place it. All right, sweet. I'll go ahead and start it on Green Mind. You gave your thoughts about it earlier, several of which I agree with. I said that there was one thing that you said that made me upset, and I'm about to tell you what it is. Now let me look at the songs that it was. It was track 3 and track 4, Blowing It and
Yeah.
I Live for That Look. You said that you did not like these songs. This is my favorite part of the album.
Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
dude,
That's
I
hilarious.
completely love these songs. I love the transition
I mean, they're
between.
good. I don't dislike them.
Cool. I on the entire album, I would say I have the least amount of criticism for these two songs, and they sort of feel like one song. I would say that this is one of the most creative parts of this album. Is this double song, little being one thing type of scenario. I would say also that Blowing It, it's like pretty cool lyrically. I really like the lyrics of the song, and I also think, man, the bass part on this song is so well written. I just think it's so well conceived of and intelligent. Um, so good job, Jay, on the bass part. Now the guitar solo comes in sort of like an awesome way, and it's kind of short. It's just tiny, but it comes in, like when it comes in, that's just quite a moment. And then we'll talk about that transition into the next song, I Live for That Look, because we're talking about them together. It's like a short song. It's obviously meant as sort of the next part of it, It's the intention. It just starts immediately because of that. It just kicks right in. Um, and I mean, the first time I think I probably ever heard this, I pretty much didn't detect it that it was the next song. It was just all one thing.
I
You know,
still
like,
miss it. I still like.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, the next song started. Yeah.
it's a really weird thing. It makes you think, what the heck is the structure of this song? You know, because in a lot of ways, Dinosaur Jr. does sort of a standard structure of verse, chorus, bridge slash guitar solo. You know, a lot of times they do that normal structure, but whenever you're listening to this, if you're not looking, it feels like, what the heck is the structure of this song? But it's two songs. Man, it's so interesting. It's my favorite part of Green Mind. When I think about Green Mind, I think about these two songs. It's my favorite thing.
You want to hear him again?
I'll still allow you to be my friend. Uh, okay, now there are other very serious highlights on this album. Of course, Puke and Cry is a wonderfully good song. Here's something that I want to say about Green Mind in general. I think that this is sort of an anomaly in the Dinosaur Jr. discography of Jay Mascis having incredibly interesting vocal performances. I don't think that's normal for their discography because in a lot of times he's very mellow, and it's to the point I was watching a Dinosaur Jr. interview, and I don't remember which one it was, but he was talking about how sometimes he gets compliments on his singing, Jay Mascis does, and he's just like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't understand. Like, he doesn't even really accept the compliment. He's just like, "Are you brain dead? Why are you complimenting my singing?" And, you know, everyone who listens to Dinosaur Jr., we understand that the vocal performances are this sort of weird, mellow thing where it's kind of like the least important part of Dinosaur Jr. It's sort of like he only sings just so there's a song for him to solo on top of later. And that's when he's expressing himself almost. It's interesting because you would think the lyrics should be the expressive part of the song or whatever, like they really drive the point home. But it's almost never that for this band. They're sort of always the least important thing, which is weird because when you listen to a lot of the mixing of Dinosaur Jr. albums, it's so vocal forward and everything else is sort of behind the vocals in the mixing. But I think it's kind of necessary in order just to hear him a lot of times, you know. And so I think that's a whole interesting thing to talk about, just that vocal style. But on Green Mind, incredibly interesting vocal performances all over the thing. That's another one of my favorite things about Green Mind. And of course, it does that acoustic thing that we were talking about that lands probably better on other projects, especially when it's the three of them involved. But it's something about Jay kind of doing everything himself. I don't know why, but his vocal performances got kind of like wacky and interesting here, where his voice is just kind of he's kind of warping his voice around and doing weird vocal inflections that he never does anywhere else. And so that's one of the things that I really like and appreciate about Green Mind. And Green Mind is also really interesting because it's into the mind of Jay Mascis because he does almost everything on the whole album. And so I think it's an interesting thing to listen to from that perspective as well, as a person who's just a big fan of Jay Mascis. But it is lower on my list. It's not the lineup, you know, it's not the original three that work so well together. There are misses in the track list for me, honestly. Something that I will say is we do kind of disagree about Flying Cloud. It does that sort of dadgad sounding, tuning Led Zeppelin-y thing. It's kind of trippy. I honestly just think it's kind of weak. Like it's an okay version of that, but that's not what I want to hear from Jay Mascis. Like when I think about what I want to hear when I listen to Dinosaur Jr., it's not that. And so I think it's an experiment that is moderately successful, but it's kind of skippable to me. But I mean, and like I want to be clear, I don't dislike it. It's just not why I listen to this band. It's just not the point to me. And man, I think there's other stuff that's weird, like Muck. I don't really like the song Muck. I think it's a weak song idea with this little reggae riff thing that I just think is weird. Now the chorus and the bridge, they're much better, but the verses of the song, I'm just not a fan of it. Just kind of a weak idea in my opinion. Um, yeah, that's good for me. That's what I'll say about Green Mind. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. I like that you brought up Led Zeppelin, because that it sounds so much like Battle of Evermore, and I actually, well, I really like Battle of Evermore, so that might also be why I like that song.
Well,
Yeah.
cool. And another thing that I guess I will say about Green Mind, if we're gonna just like make references to other bands, because I did with Zeppelin, I did with the Police earlier. I'm about to do it a couple more times. This album to me in Dinosaur Jr.'s discography is like the Sonic Youth album that's like the No Star, Jet Set, and Trash, or however that is. This is like that to me. In their discography, this is that one where it's sort of like good, weird, and it's weaker, but I still like it. That's how I feel about Green Mind. It's just like that to me in my head. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and let's hear your thoughts on something what you're not. I always give a glimpse of what you're not.
Well, it's my least favorite because the title's too long. Move it below Green Mind.
All right. It is the least memorable title. It's a weird. What does it even mean? Give a glimpse.
Year is misspelled, which I'm a grammar freak, so I don't like that.
I like that your is misspelled. I think it's weird, and so it's all right to me.
You like it? Oh wow.
Yeah. I like the you're misspelled, but I don't understand what the heck it's talking about. Give a glimpse of what you're not. And who's giving the glimpse to who? Because it doesn't sound like you're doing it for yourself. Like, give a glimpse of what you're not. Are they commanding me to give myself a glimpse of what I'm
overthinking this?
Or is someone else giving me a glimpse of what I'm not? It just is an incoherent title.
Yeah.
But I could be very wrong about that. It just so happens that I don't know what it means. That's what I'm really trying to say. I don't get it.
So I'll start with I don't own this one, and I want it because I want all of them. Actually, I would say I haven't seen it, but that's because if I saw it, I would have bought it by now.
Yeah. And it's so new. You'll probably I don't know if you will see it because
That's true. Yeah. So this one actually is almost, for me, it's almost the opposite of what is it? I Bet on Sky, where it's like the first 4 songs, I love all of them. I think they're really fun. They remind me of another album by Dinosaur Jr. that I put really, really high. And so I like that. And then the rest of the album is still good. I still like it. But I feel like it's a step down. Like you have like the song, was it track 5? Love Is, where it's moving. It almost sounds like a movie soundtrack or something. So like, I don't know how the rest of the album has this like on the road kind of feel, and I like it, but it's like those first 4 songs are just, they're so good. Like this is another one I didn't know at all until we did this, so I need to, I have my list. My list is set, but I feel like with some of these, I guess later ones, I don't know as much as my opinions might change on them, like not now, like over time. But for now, that's where it is. Trying to think what else I have to say about this one. Again, it's still good. I still want it. I like the song. Actually, the second half, I lied. I really like the song Knocked Around, where it's like, it's almost a slow burner, but then it gets like way up there. I really like that. And the other songs are still good, but so I feel like it's more, that's the thing, because it's more consistent that I Bet on Sky. But I Bet on Sky has that like brutally awesome second half, but the first half, so it's like this one as a whole, it's like it's pretty good all the way through. So I think that's why I put it in this particular place.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Consistency. Yeah.
Of course, I'll talk about this album. Um, I think I have more positive to say about it than you do, but that makes sense because I obviously put it somewhat higher, you know? But yeah, I'm glad you like it. I really do. Uh, let's go on to number 9. And I also want to say that I agree with what you said about it being more consistent than I Bet on Sky. I would say that's definitely the case. So number 9 for me is Handed Over.
Cool.
This almost hurts me to put it here, but it's just the way it is.
My number 9 is Farm.
Gotcha.
We're like pretty close. So if nothing, I don't know which one. I feel like I might have one that'll like throw you off or vice versa. But we're pretty consistent so far for the most part.
I would say that the only shocking thing you've said is just about those songs on Green Mind.
Not bad.
That in my mind, the only thing that's completely taken me aback, like what? That's the only thing so far.
I'm honestly surprised.
Yeah, it's fun. Dude, go ahead and talk about Farm since we've touched on it before.
Let me find this. Way too much. Yeah, so this is like the really dense. I feel like you take a lot of, I kind of like what you said. A lot of what Dinosaur Jr. is like here. I keep doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this to the max. And some of the songs I think are pretty good. Like I Want You to Know, where it has that moment where it's like, and like that is, I love it. It's really awesome. Or like Ocean in the Way. I like that song because it's like swinging, I guess. Yeah. It's really cool. Yeah, I like this album. I'll say I like this a lot. And even I Don't Want to Go There, where it's just slamming at you for like 8 minutes. For me, I feel like at this point in the Dinosaur Jr. career, because this is like, what was the year for this? Hey, you put all the years up, 2009. There's not a lot on here that's different or new that makes it like stand out. Like, because even at this point in their albums, for better or for worse, they're still doing things that are a little different or I guess unique. But for what it is, I still really like it. And this is another one. Okay, so like the top of my list, I'll say it's pretty much set. Like I like this album in these exact order. And these one, again, this is my order, but I feel like Farm is another one I'm new to. So I feel like I'll like it more over time, maybe. But for now, that's where it is. Yeah, it's cool. I like, also Farm. This is it. I also have this album, which is exciting. Yeah, I need to remember to throw up the albums. Okay, yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on what's it? Handed Over.
Handed Over. Man, this album is really the misfit of the discography. And I think in several ways, everything about it is just weird. Everything. So many of the vocal performances on this album are some of the weakest ever in the Dinosaur Jr. discography, where he's not really singing. He's kind of just high pitched and like really whiny sounding. Now that's not to say the whole album is like that at all. That just happens sometimes, and I don't really like it. Something interesting just to say real quick that's not part of my opinion is that apparently in this era of like the 90s Dinosaur Jr. stuff, Handed Over, this album is Jay Mascis's favorite one of all of them. Yeah. Or at least he said that once. He might have changed his mind. But I thought that was an interesting thing for him to say. And I think it really is kind of a massive change in direction for the band. There is a lot on here that's nothing like anything that they've ever done. And one thing that I will really say about Handed Over is that I really like the boldness with which they went this completely separate direction. Now, one of the biggest things on this album for me that I love so much is the guitar sound. The guitar sound is so fuzzed out, noisy, but also dark. This is like probably the most depressing of any Dinosaur Jr. album on the list. That's my opinion. It's the most depressing. Yeah, I would say some lyrics too. Uh, Another thing that I will say that's sort of to its or that's not good about it is the song "I'm Insane." This song with that stupid trumpet thing going the whole time. That is annoying. I do not like the song "I'm Insane." Bad idea. Um, it's that trumpet makes it borderline unlistenable. Um, I mean, I still will listen to it sometimes, but it's weird. It's like if I'm listening to this album and then like my wife comes home or something, I'll probably pause whereas with other stuff on this album, like the song Alone, let's say, incredible guitar sound, I'll just leave it playing. It's like, what's up, babe? Welcome home. But if freaking I'm Insane is playing and my wife comes home, I know she's just gonna be like, what is this? Turn it off. And so, and it's not even like I'm embarrassed about it. It just doesn't do anything for me. I'm just kind of listening to it for my own interests, and I just am aware that it's sort of annoying, and so I'll just not keep it playing. Uh, Man, there's other songs on this that are honestly not super good, like this song "Sure Not Over You." I think it's weak, but there's other songs on here that are super cool, super duper cool. Like "Never Bought It" with the flute, so awesome. So glad to hear the flute on this. Um, Man, I really also like the song "Loaded." Um, and then they have a super wildly weird song for them. Uh, Ear Bleeding Country, the song Getting Rough with the banjo. It's the most country I think they get. And it's like a fun song. I just like it. I just dig it. Now also, I mean, let's talk about the song Alone. I already mentioned that I really, really like it. It's super duper slow. It's so heavy and it takes its sweet time. It's quite a long song. The vocals are like sensitive, and I think powerfully sensitive. I think that the sensitive vocal thing they're doing here is really successful on this song. Um, I mean, it makes sense if someone thinks this song is too long and meanders and just goes on and on. But as a Dinosaur Jr. fan who just likes to hear the band play, I do not mind. I do not mind at all. I want to hear that blistering, slow guitar solo because it sounds totally berserk in the song Alone. It's one of the cooler. I mean, this album, Hand It Over. The sound of it is so much darker and more depressing than everything else in their whole discography, and it has a certain charm in that way for me. And so I really like this album. But I don't own the CD of this one. I also don't own Green Mind, and I also don't own I Bet on the Sky, just to be clear. But this has got to be the next one that I need to buy because I really enjoy Hand It Over, and it hurts me to put it at number 9, but I think it's almost obvious that it's not as strong as a lot of their discography. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
Man, I gotta take another drink. Well, you want to go right on to number 8?
Yes,
We're
I
certainly
do.
chugging our way through this list. Number 8 for me is their newest one, Sweep It Into Space.
My number 8 is Hand It Over.
Hand It Over. Wow. Are you kidding me?
I'm just following you at this point. Yeah.
That's cool. Man, that's really funny. I'm going to make some room. Go ahead and talk about your thoughts about Hand It Over.
Hand It Over. Yeah, this album's weird, but it's cool. I made a list of all the flute, trumpet. I think again, this is all what I think it is. What it sounds like on was it Can't We Move This, where it almost sounds like a sitar or like a weird synth thing. Maybe they're all synths, I don't know. Yeah, banjo, like you said. Alone being like the shoegaze meltdown, crazy stuff. And Alone, I feel like it's a little long, but I still like it. It almost reminds me of like Alice in Chains, like the Dog album, where it's just sludging.
Yeah.
It's
Sludge.
cool.
Mhm.
It's fun. I really like Sure Not Over You. I think I also really like boring music as part. No, but I think there's a lot of emotion in it. Uh, yeah, we'll get actually. Yeah, we'll talk about it. My favorite band is really boring, but anyway, yeah, I agree with what you said. It's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Uh, the banjo is cool. I don't think I like it as much. Again, I don't think I like it as much as you, but I still like it. And
Mm.
for them to like their second to last track, they throw in a banjo. I love it. I think in concept it's brilliant, and it's for an album like this. Why not? Why not just go for it? Also, I forget you have these. Hand it over. There it is. I do have this one, which is on the gang.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else to again. You're so thorough. I'm trying to think if you I don't think you miss anything. Oh yeah. So for me, for some of I guess I really want to talk about the albums at the top of my list. For some of these other albums, it like the song starts and you're just like thrown. You're like it's crazy. It's awesome. And for this album, it starts and it's kind of weird at first, like the trumpet, for example. But then it kind of, for me at least, it kind of sets in and it's like, okay, I get this now. Now it's really cool. Now it's really awesome. So it's like getting used to the songs for me. But when I do get used to it, I like it. I like it a lot.
Mm. Well, cool. Yeah. Hand It Over is definitely a misfit, but I'm glad to see that you like it too. That's cool. Yeah, I think it's sort of underrated and sort of underappreciated, and so it's a good one to definitely take some time with and listen to, even for this ranking. So I guess I'll go ahead and talk about Sweep It Into Space, their album from this year, which I put at number 8. I think this album is really strong. I love this album. Whenever I make my best albums of 2021, this is on it. But on a Dinosaur Jr. list, it's number 8. Um, there is stuff on this album that I don't completely love. And I would say maybe I just don't love it yet. I could say it might grow on me because this is the one that I'm probably the least acclimated with. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe I'm less acclimated with I Bet on Sky. I think I've listened to it less, just over time. But Sweeping Into Space, I'm still getting used to it, because it's pretty new. Now a lot of it is incredible, and some of like the song I Ran Away, which is sort of like it's either the lead single or something like that. It's a song that they pushed before the album. That's a perfect song. And I would also say that the song I Ran Away is a good example of Dinosaur Jr. doing that like acoustic loud thing and doing it extremely well. And they've got the original lineup. I mean, it's so successful. Now there's so much of this album, and I mean, I think that it's pretty top heavy, with stuff like I Ain't, and then like I Ran Away and To Be Waiting. Um, Garden, it's a Lou song, and it's a really good Lou song. And I don't always love Lou's contributions, but it's a good Lou song. I think it's really cool sounding. And then on the back end of the album, Hide Another Round and Me, they're really great songs. I would say that there are some songs on this album that do something that I did criticize some on Farm, which is that they're just chords with the right sound, but they're not really doing riffs. I would say that there's sometimes on this album where that is also the case, but there's enough gems, just absolute gems that I just absolutely love on this album that it's going all the way up there at number 8. Well, that doesn't even sound that high, but it's up
Not
at
high at
number 8.
all.
I mean, when I'm comparing it to these other albums that I care about a lot, and really appreciate, number 8 hurts me. Kind of like I said for Hand It Over. It's weird to see it that low as much as I like it. But yeah, this album, it really excites me. I'm excited to get to know it more as I listen to it for the rest of my life, just like I will with the rest of this band. Just drive home a heartfelt message right there. So those are my thoughts on the new album. I have it right here. To be honest, this package isn't great. It is a CD and no booklet, and the inside stuff is just black squares, a bunch of Dondas.
Black squares. Wait, I have it too. Donda.
Yes, Donda.
Guys.
That's all. I mean, this package is really lackluster, and that's too bad. You know, speaking of Donda, I actually have it right here, Donda. Be sure to watch my last video, the review of Donda. But yeah, this album, very worth owning. Very excited to have this. Joe, are you good if we move on to number 7?
I'm good. I'll just add, I also own Donda, but I don't have it with me right now.
Yeah.
But I do own it.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yep.
Don't try to look too close here or here. It's Donda, believe me. Okay, so the number 7 on my list happens to be the first one, Dinosaur.
All right, and my number 7 is the new one, Sweep It Into Space, or Donda.
Are you kidding me? That's funny. All right, here it goes.
So wait, I like every album so far, just slightly more than you do.
Yeah, I guess. That's really funny. Yeah. Like with only the exception of Farm.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I guess Give a Glimpse of What You're Not. You know, which, by the way, it's still not appeared on my list.
Right.
Yeah. But, yeah, since we, once again, like, I'm making you go first if I've already talked about it, and I'm making myself go first if you've already talked about it. So guess what? You're going first again, buddy.
My turn.
Yeah.
You guys, okay. So, yeah, Sweep Into Space. This album is sweet. It's smooth. It's cruising. Especially, I love how simple some of the melodies are, but they're still very much Dinosaur Jr. And you hear that. You know, Jay Mascis is still like vocally, I guess, at the front of the mix. But like, yeah, you mentioned I Ran Away. I love that song, and it's one where it's like it feels like the country rock again, but it works because yeah, again, it's really pretty. This whole video is just me gushing about this band, and where I'm at number 7. Yeah. I feel like so the track I Expected Always, track 8, is kind of how I feel about your thoughts on Farm, where it's really heavy, but I guess substance-wise, there's not as much there. But that's probably my least favorite. I really like, I mean, gosh, I just want to talk about every song on here. I just listened to this today because this is the last one, but I wanted to hear it again. It's sick. Yeah, and then they throw in the mind-blowing guitar solos and just the, I guess, not that this like is as important to the album itself, but it's like, they're 35 however many years in their career, and they're still killing it. And I love that they have the 3 of them are on it again. It's great. It's just a fun time. And as I'll continue saying, gosh, and also this one, it's still pounding, but there's something about it that's just, yeah, it's really smooth. It's sick. I don't know what it is. And, because you compare this, because all the other albums, they do that, but this one in particular, it's something emotionally about it. I really like. I really enjoy. So yeah, that's this one. Yeah. I agree with what you said. There's not much here in the packaging, but I love the album cover. I think it's really nice. Yeah, it's nice looking. It's a nice picture.
I think something that connects with me about this album is that I think it's their most passionate album since like 11 years, and 2021 minus 2009 equals 11, and so that's what I'm talking about. I think so, and you'll notice that Give a Glimpse of What You're Not's not on my list yet, but I think that Sweep It Into Space is more passionate than it too. I think that this album really meant something to them. It was special. there was a lot of narrative on it, telling actual stories about something that happened in their life. It was narrative, and I thought that was really cool. There was some narrative early in their career, and when we already talked about the song Freak Scene, that's a good example of a narrative playing out in a song. And they do quite a bit of that sort of stuff here on Sweep It Into Space that I appreciated. So cool. I will talk about the album called Dinosaur, which is the self-titled album of a band that was at the time illegally named. Of course, now the album says Dinosaur Jr. on the front. The original copies only said the word dinosaur. I guess basically someone sent them a cease and desist or something. They said, I think some band in Canada
Wait,
named Dinosaur got
you
mad.
own this one, right?
Yes, thanks for reminding
Does
me.
it say dinosaur? Does it say dinosaur or dinosaur junior?
Junior,
Okay.
yeah, and it says both here.
I didn't know the new ones that they added junior to it. I thought they still said, well, I don't own this one, but I thought that they all still said dinosaur.
No, they added the junior so they could comply with rules. Yeah, this album is top notch. I care a lot about the whole thing, and so when I listen to this, there's not anything that I skip. And this is the first album on my list that is the case. There are some highlights in the track list, like Does It Float, I think is maybe my favorite song on the album. Also, of course, Repulsion is one that they continue to play live from this album, whereas a lot of it they don't. But Repulsion, they'll continue to play it live. And this song is a really, really good song. It is old. This one is their first album released as a band. Like I said earlier in this video, they started in 1984. Here's their 1985 output. And there is still quite a bit of influence from that really heavy. This is probably the heaviest of all their albums. Is that heavy, informed by hardcore, Boston hardcore scene. It's all of that sort of subtext is in this album, where they're making catchy pop songs sort of through the lens of Boston hardcore scene. Man, this album really does not give a crap about any convention of how to write a catchy song, but it's all catchy. Yeah, I would just say this album is it's weird though. It's so weird because you don't hear things that are this heavy and this catchy. You don't. I think that it makes sense if someone thought that this album is one of the weaker ones in the Dinosaur Jr. discography as an album. But to me, I think it's consistent enough, and I don't feel about any track that it's skippable at all. Because I feel in those ways, I've ranked it higher than the other albums on the list. I think that this is not my favorite sound from Dinosaur Jr., but as an album, this is where it belongs. When I think of Dinosaur Jr., I don't think of the sound of this album. But I'm pretty happy with it, pretty much right here around the middle of the list. And so that's sort of my thoughts on it.
Cool. Yeah.
Now, I noticed that this album is not on your list yet. And then I look at the bottom of our screen here, and I see that most of the albums between us are the same that we haven't said yet, with that exception of you, Dinosaur, and me give a glimpse of what you're not. And I have a prediction of what's going to happen next. I'm going to put it on the screen, and I want you to tell me if you're correct. Well, okay, I'm admitting that's my album, but I'm about to do the next one. So here goes.
Oh, actually, no.
Whoa.
That one even higher.
Whoa, that surprises me. Okay, especially because we were talking about earlier about how I like kind of heavier stuff in general more than you do.
Yeah.
And so I'm really kind of surprised to see that you put that particular one higher than 6. I'm surprised about that. So what's your 6?
My next one, and everyone's going to disagree with me on this. still love this album, I'm gonna go with "You're Living All Over Me."
I can't do it. This is pain.
Just
It,
end the video.
oh
Okay,
wow.
but I will say, um, so for me, this album I will say is a 10 out of 10, and this may change someday. I still feel like so every album from now on is like, yeah, I guess 10 out of 10. Just this is where it starts to get like mind blowing for me. But I guess we'll talk. The other albums that just stood out more, I guess. You're Living All Over Me. Yeah, I I do love this album. Uh, Tyler, I'm surprised Tyler hasn't left the room yet.
I have an open mind.
It's well, yeah, I haven't talked about the debut yet, but like you talk about the noise rock and the hardcore on the debut, how and they're going off, but You're Living All Over Me, they're realizing, or they're obtaining their potential as a band, and you're like, you hear it's more clear, it's more refined. They what was I gonna say? You hear that like on the song Crack, come on babe, as a vocalist, I feel like he really steps it up on this album. Or like, okay, a few I guess transitions between the songs. So at the end of Cracked, it hits that like the feedback, and then the next what is it, Sludge Fest starts with that is awesome.
Yeah.
That makes me want to like start flipping tables and throwing things. It destroys me. And
Dude,
also
can I say real quick before you go on from this specific point, because I don't want to have to repeat everything you just said later, but I have to say something. I think that this moment that you're discussing, feedback straight into Sludge Feast, and then the way Sludge Feast like randomly key changes instantly. All of it so it's the feedback into the heaviness of Sludge Feast, and then like 4 bars in, instant key change. It's all of that to me is a moment together where it's just like, what the heck is going on? It's incredibly disorienting and really, really rad. And so I'm a big fan of this moment that you're describing with the addition of that key change.
Yeah, it's cool. And then the other one that just makes my head explode. So the end of Tar Pit, where it's just this black hole, and then it cuts, and then In a Jar starts, and it's just the really happy, and with the and you can also, it's all bass and drums. You can barely hear the guitar on this, but like and that song it works, and it's cool enough on its own. But like coming out of that, yeah, from the I guess black hole of sound, when it cuts and you get this little happy thing, yeah, I love it. I think the song "The Lung" is a contender for best lead guitar part ever, because da 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 da. I could listen to that all day. I just never want to turn that off. I love it. I really there's nothing I dislike about this album. It's just the other albums I like so much more, and it's like, again, some things have to get put lower. But yeah, for me, again, it's that threshold of what is good music, and I feel like every album is freaking 10 out of 10. I love all of them. I think that's all I have to say about, because I love all this album, and there's a few things that are like the best thing I've ever heard. I don't like the last one. Was it Polito? I don't know how to say it, with the sound collage thing. I don't really like that, but I love everything else. It's awesome. Yeah, oh man, now is the part of the video where I'm just gonna be saying, I love it. Like the whole time, I trying to describe how much I love these albums.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're at fanboy stage by number 6 in the list.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Unfortunately,
dude, sweet. Man, I'll talk about Give a Glimpse of What You're Not. This album is really the sound. Like when I think about what I want to listen to, Dinosaur Jr., they really did that sound all over this thing. And so it's really high on my list for that reason. This is just my favorite version of the band. There's so many like really good songs. You mentioned Knocked Around earlier. That's an incredible song. Uh, I also really love, probably my favorite song on the whole album is Be Apart. I I can remember the first time that I heard this song. Uh, and I think every time I listen to this song, it reminds me of the first time I listened to this song, and I wish I could go back. Because it starts out really slow. It's sort of the intro, and it's like really soft, and then the tempo instantly doubles, but it's still slow. But it's like whoa, and then you have that lead part where the ding, 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 that lead just comes in, and he just starts singing, "Come on and be a part of me." Uh, this song is very, very creative. And so I would say that it's my favorite on the album. Of course, there's also Tiny. It's a wonderfully good song. Uh, Something about this album, once again, it's that sound of Dinosaur Jr. That's what I think of Dinosaur Jr. sounding like. And it does that so consistently that I put it at number 6. There's not a skip here. This is a wonderful album to listen to. And here it is. This is my CD copy of this
Tell
one.
us. I don't own it, so I want it. I want it.
And now we talked about how like it's so new, so you're probably not going to see it where we shop, because a lot of times, by the way, audience, we buy just used CDs. We go to places and just look for used CDs all the
Like
time.
this one. I bought this new because it just came out.
Yeah. And so when it just comes out, it's easier to get because it's on shelves. Uh, Stuff like this we're not going to find used because people have been listening to it for like 4 or 5 years. It's not going to be used yet, but I ordered this on the internet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I got it in that particular way. I bought it brand new just on the internet because I really like it,
You have
and
to
I
do that.
didn't ever see it anywhere else. Yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on it. um so I guess that's an interesting one because I like Give a Glimpse of What You're Not, according to our ranking anyway, quite a bit better than you do. Um, and I recall you saying earlier that this album reminds you sound wise of an album that you like a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm
The
not going to
beginning.
make you reveal what that is, but I think that's an interesting thing to keep in the back of our minds for when you reveal it. And of course, I have a guess of what it is.
I think you know what it is.
I think I do, but I'm not going to say it right now. I'll just let you know. Uh,
Cool.
oh, there was one other thing. Oh, yeah. The other thing I was going to say is that according to the list, I probably, I'll like You're Living All Over Me. It seems like I'll like that more than you did, but you called it a 10 out of 10. And so I'm not sure that this list is going to demonstrate very well our comparative tastes going forward because you're just going to love everything and you're
Yes.
already at number 6.
Right. Yep.
Because I mean, I think
Because you're not there yet, is what you're saying.
I'm not there yet. I'm
Okay.
not terribly close to there yet.
Hmm.
But we probably like it similarly, though. Even though it's going to be higher in my list, it's
I get
probably
it. Yeah.
similar, and I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're okay. I get it now.
Because like
So
I like I like Give a Glimpse of What You're Not a lot more than you do, but even though You're Living All Over Me is going to be higher for me than you, I
we
don't.
might
I
like
think
the
it's
same.
similar. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's interesting to me. Um, you ready to go to number 5, Joe?
Yeah, I remember thinking, I'm like, there's no way they have, for me, like I must be like fangirling too hard. Like there's no way they have this many 10 out of 10 albums. But I went back and listened again. I'm like, no, like this is how I feel about all all 6 of these that you can see.
Yeah.
Um and that's just how completely out of control they are as a band. And yeah, that's how much I like them. Okay, so my number 5 is going to be the debut, Dinosaur.
Wow. Okay. And my number 5 is Where You Been.
Cool.
All right. Since I've already talked about Dinosaur,
We know
you
the rules.
yeah, you know the rules.
So the first time, I really got into Dinosaur Jr. through Tyler. He mentioned a few times when we were at school, and I was like, "That song." Well, I guess I remembered a song I heard before. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I like that song. So let's listen." I listened to this because it's the first one, and at the time I didn't like it. I'll even say I really did not like this album. It's just a mess. The noise, everything. And then, but fortunately, I listened to "You're Living All Over Me" and loved it, and that's how I got into Dinosaur Jr. So I'm glad I kept going. But yeah, at the time, this was just a turnoff. I did not like this at all.
Can
So
I stop you for a sec?
yeah,
Okay, I'm stopping you for a sec because I need to ask a question about what you just said. You said that Dinosaur you didn't like, and then you started listening to You're All Over Me, and you really liked it. My question is, track one, Little Fury Things, starts like the harshest thing they've ever done. And so, whenever you first heard that part of that song, were you like, "What the heck? It gets harsher than Dinosaur"? Like, I want to know
I
about your thoughts.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Remember, so my initial impression of that moment, I honestly don't remember. I obviously I know how it is now, and I like it. But my initial impression of that song was I loved it.
Hmm.
So right when the actual the is it the verse or the chorus? When that starts, I love it. So I think I love the album enough. I just forgot. I guess I just forgot about my initial impression of the beginning because I know exactly what you're talking about, and you're right. Um, which yeah, which and now I love that. And now I absolutely love the debut. The change in opinion for me is huge because now it's like, oh, now it's I love all of this. So part of it is yeah, just the lo-fi of it. There's not a lot there, but what is there is completely amazing. Um like you said with the hardcore scene, they really tap into that. I think it works. It's also like sci-fi, I guess, with like the phasers that'll come through, but also like country because they, obviously the world's loudest country band as they are. And honestly, the bass playing, I mean, because like Dinosaur Jr., they're a band that breaks the rules a lot. But like him as a bass player, he is breaking all the rules. He's
Yeah.
flying all over the place. He's playing chords,
Yeah.
and the bass is so because there's not a lot there. The bass is so high up, so far up in the mix, like the song "Does It Float," which I think is also my favorite, where it's like it's just and it's like it's thick, it's crunching. If I was in a band, I would want to be playing music like this. This
Yeah.
is well, oh my gosh, yeah, it's so good, and it is super emotional somehow for how crazy loud and weird and because yeah, again, it's so unique. It's like nothing else. It's almost the opposite of Farm because it stands out so hard or so well. I guess it goes hard. Um, yeah, um, I don't. I think we should move on before I just talk about this for hours.
Makes sense, man. Yeah.
And I don't own this one, but I do own this one. I forgot to show it.
Oh, there it is.
But I don't own this one, and I'm really jealous that Tyler owns this one because I really, really want it. It's like it's a need. I have not found it yet.
Yeah, that's a really good album. Yeah, I found it used. It was out and about someplace, but they probably made less of them, just a
Uh,
little bit less of them. And but yeah, that's a great album. I'm glad you to see that you like it. I'm pretty surprised to see that you like it too. Um, being that the whole album is lo-fi and harsh.
uh,
Uh, but yeah, um, yeah, really cool. I guess I'll talk about Where You Been. So this album for me, it's very much what I think probably Green Mind should have been. It's just a little more better ideas, I would say, better songwriting. Um, it's stronger in terms of what Dinosaur Jr. is stronger at. Uh, Good soloing. There's several good vocal performances on this one too. Um, I mean, when you're thinking about the beginning of the album, track one with like the octave vocals, it does that thing. It's really cool. Um, Well, gosh, let's see. Of course, still thinking about the beginning. There's like "Start Choppin'," which, yeah, it has like a lot of character. This song is a very Dinosaur Jr. song. Oh man, this there's softer stuff on it that's really cool as well. Now let me look at the track list. Uh, I'm trying to think of the name of this song. Um, so it's "Get Me." Yep, "Get
Oh
Me"
yeah.
is like one of the softer ones on it that I think it's just really really cool. Um, Oh, I wanted to mention on "Start Choppin'," there's this part where like the drums drop out and you're just like hearing the bass. Wicked. That part, I can't skip over that part. That's really cool. Also, this album has like timpani on it. It does random orchestral things, which just is it tells you a little bit about how the band wants to expand their sound and experiment and be artistic and artful. Uh, this album, it's very creative. um this is another one where there's just no skips. I'll say that this album, songwriting wise, is one of the more interesting ones. I think just like this album has so much character that makes me like it and want to listen to it with like some intent, so much. I like it so much for those reasons that I feel really positively about it. Um, and I ranked it above "Give a Glimpse of What You're Not." And even though that's sort of my favorite sound of Dinosaur Jr., I think this album, "Where You Been," has so much character, and I think it just does Dinosaur Jr. in a sort of different way, but I think it's so successful that I like it this much.
Cool. Yeah.
It
So
does plenty of the acoustic thing too here and there. Like I said earlier, it's kind of what I think Green Mind should have been. But I didn't mean to interrupt what you were just saying. Go ahead.
well, I was because maybe I'm not understanding. You said "Give a Glimpse of What You're Not" is the best sound of Dinosaur Jr., but you put it at sixth.
Yep.
Why? I guess why did you not put it higher? I guess I'm not
Yep.
understanding.
Well, I think that Dinosaur Jr. What I meant when I said that was like when I think of Dinosaur Jr., I think of the sound of that album and other ones that sound similar.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
and so that's like my favorite sound. That's what I think of them as. But that doesn't necessarily mean that something that sounds like a different kind of Dinosaur Jr. is something that I'll always like worse.
Yeah.
And in the case of "Where You Been," when I'm comparing it to an album that I think has the sound that I like the best, just the overall sound, I think "Where You've Been" does a lot more creative things than "Give a Glimpse of What You're Not" that really have my interest. And then also it has so much character and good songwriting that also gets me really interested. And so I think that this album outdoes "Give a Glimpse of What You're Not" for those reasons.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Also, the guitars in this album are so wild sounding that I can't really ignore that. I would say that while "Give a Glimpse of What You're Not" has the sound that I think of Dinosaur Jr. as, it's less wild and off the rails than a lot of parts of "Where You Been," because that album, it's there is a lot of shocking moments on this one. And I just think this one gets my attention more often, has more moments, you could say. That's something that I like to think about music in terms of is, when I'm listening to stuff, like that's a moment. And like this period of time, like several times during this, we've talked about parts of songs that just blow our minds. I'd say "Where You Been" has more of that than "Give a Glimpse of What You're Not." And so I feel more positively. So I guess that's sort of my answer to your question.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. You answered it.
Cool.
I like everything you said because I like these albums.
Dude,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
Well, cool. Let's go to number 4 then. My number 4 is "Bug."
Oh wow. Okay. Huh.
I
That's
think I think I can understand why you're surprised by that.
I think that's I thought that was like again, I thought it'd be higher for you.
Dude, I talk about Bug all the time
You do.
and how much I love this album. But
Oh, I
yeah,
don't know.
number
Oh,
4.
okay. My number 4 is Where You Been. So you know what you know who's talking first.
Yep.
Oh
You
my
know the
gosh.
rules.
You know the rules.
Yeah.
And actually, so this one, I don't have the cover is actually, if you can see, I'm looking at my screen. It's on the wall. It's next to the Pearl Jam poster. It's so it's this alien creature thing, but it's on the wall. And so what I did, so I just moved into this apartment and I put all this crap up on the wall, and I was left with, there's like this one like square space. I'm like, I want something here. And also everything there is like music related. And then I was listening to Where You've Been, and I unfolded it, and it fits perfectly. It's like right in that little spot next to the Pearl Jam one. And I was like, this is perfect. This is going on the wall. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
But okay, so the album.
There's several posters I see on your wall. You know, I'm seeing the Pearl Jam 10 poster. I'm seeing the Wish You Were Here, the Sonic Youth up behind your head.
That one, that one's my favorite actually.
Yeah, because I have that poster, so I recognize that.
Yeah.
And then there's London Calling.
All the way.
And then there's the World Record.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the world record.
The World Record.
World record.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
gosh.
so I'm seeing that's.
I'm gonna have to start well, you're doing the tour of your music room. I'm gonna have to start a YouTube channel and show all my and I'd like to I want more posters, but I haven't found anything yet that also I'm like out of space, but I have another wall here I want to put stuff on.
Yep. You're living that bachelor life.
That's true.
That is apparent.
It's all coming down. Unfortunately.
No, what you got to do is when you get married, then you got to get a room in your house to put them all up, because that's what I did.
Yep. That's very true.
You look like a real YouTuber with that background. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All right, man. Go ahead with your review.
Okay, so Where You Been, which is, I guess, this or the disc itself. Yeah, I love this. The guitar sound on this album is some of the best. I'm gonna keep saying like this is the best thing ever, the best thing ever. Yeah, I love the sound of the guitars on this, and it really works with the crazy thrashing, but also like really pretty, really sad, heartfelt, emotional, which, you know, these albums get even more emotional as we go on. That's where we're at. It's brilliant. I honestly, I loved every second of this. It's so powerful. I feel like there's more, I guess, individual parts are more interesting on Dinosaur on the debut, but as a whole, Where You Been is, and it's also interesting because, well, you'll see again the albums that I put this high that don't have Jay Mascis, Lou Barlow, and Murph, because this one, as you see, is after Green Mine. But I should know. I'm not sure who are the other people that played on this album, but whoever it was, they did a good job.
It's the dude who. Have you ever seen the Feel the Pain music video?
Yes.
Where they're in the golf carts, those two guys. Oh. That's Jay Mascis and their bass player.
Okay.
And
yeah, I looked it up because I always read through the albums, but I was like, not that I stopped caring, but I was like, oh, well, this album has the three of them and this album doesn't. Like,
I think it's Matt McDonald or something like that is his name. While you're talking, I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, look it up. More about this album. Yeah, they don't miss, even when they're the different band members. It's kind of like I said, it's so over the top. It's crazy. But it's also really sad with not the same, where it throws in the piano at the end. It's yeah, it's like, again, it's like how does this exist? This is so good. Yeah, I like have you found an answer to who was in the band during these 4 albums, or I guess 3 albums?
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, I showed this already. What else do I want to say? Oh, the soloing on this album is phenomenal. I think I don't know what's my favorite album in terms of guitar solos because so many are so good. Even on the ones that my lower albums like Farm, for example, I like this guitar solos, but this one is this if we I guess if we're ranking them, or I guess talking in terms of which has the absolute best guitar solos, this would be up there. This might be first or second for me,
Yeah.
solo wise. Um, and yeah, also I will say, so what albums we have left? There's two of them I knew Tyler would put this high. There's one I knew he liked, but I didn't know it'd be this high. But I'm interested to see how the last three. I think I know what your number one is. I was for sure. I want to hear what you have to say about Bug. I was for sure that was first or second for you.
Man, we should try to predict each other's top three.
Hmm.
But yeah, the answer to the question about the bass player is Mike Johnson. I
Okay.
said Matt McDonald. Don't listen to me. Mike Johnson is the correct answer.
Interesting.
Yeah. I guess I'll go ahead and talk about my thoughts on Bug. No, first, I'll actually say trying to determine what my favorite guitar solo album is in Dinosaur Jr.'s catalog. I think that Where You've Been is a contender. I think it's up there. It's really good, like you're saying. It's up there. I would say my answer to that question I'll get to later, because to me the answer is obvious. Like, all of them have good guitar solos, really, really good ones. But to me, I think the answer of which one has the best is more obvious. Okay, Bug. Guys, this album, this is probably, yeah, this is 10 out of 10. I think that they start here for me. Bug is so packed with stuff that I've never heard anywhere else, including Dinosaur Jr.'s discography. Bug is utterly unique. There's so much here. We have talked about the song Freak Scene. Oh, I think it's probably my second favorite Dinosaur Jr. song. It's number two, because there is one that is better to me. But I don't usually think that much about songs. But I mean, Freak Scene is like the best song ever. It's just perfect. The solos, the narrative songwriting, like we touched on, just the story. It's so cute. The misfit thing, and they're talking about the scene that like doesn't even really like Dinosaur Jr. that much, and just like keeps bugging him and won't leave him alone. Didn't mean to make that pun. Didn't mean that. And then as you're going through the album, there's like softer songs like the next track, No Bones, and then it like kind of picks up halfway into a guitar solo. I would say kind of Bug seems like it's one of the more energetic Dinosaur Jr. albums, where a lot of times they're like sleepy and loud, but on Bug they just kind of seem awake and loud more so. And there's other albums like that, but it's one of them where it has a more positive overall kind of feeling whenever you're listening to Bug. It's just happier and brighter. And there's so many beautifully and intensely and bizarrely textured moments on this album that this is what I was saying earlier about how there's just utterly unique stuff on Bug that I've never heard anywhere else, including their discography. I mean, there's really weird wah-wah things where there's just absolutely massive snare hits. And when I'm saying this, I'm talking about the song Yeah, We Know. Now there's the part where the reverb just gets totally ridiculous, unlike anything I've ever heard on the song Keep the Glove, track 10. I've never heard anything like that. And then whenever you're listening to track 9, it starts with this like groove, and like it's got all these insane effects that are rather psychedelic, and then they're just like completely screaming their brains out, just screaming bloody murder. This is great, dude. This song could be argued that it's too long. I'm still talking about track 9. But I mean, and then there's a bunch of like sludgy stuff with like really wild random feedback that's just completely off the wall. Wow. I got a phone call. I'll edit this part out of the video.
Pick it up.
Man. Okay, well, we got our background back. I don't know where the heck we were in our video, just at all.
Bug.
Oh yeah, I'm still in the middle of
track 9. I think I don't know.
I was, but I'll move on from track 9. It's all good. Dude, Pawn Song. You have to talk about Pawn Song. This is something that's like just a classic Dinosaur Jr. song. There's just like several very fast rhythms, and then there's like that theremin effect that's in verse 2. I really like that it's only in verse 2. You know, it just kind of creates a moment of, oh, that's different than before. You know, nice lyrics on Pawn Song. There's so many riffs. Like this album's riffs are just incredible. At this point in their career, I think the riffs really stood out the most because it's sort of like, it's almost like Jay Mascis is just kind of playing around with how to play a guitar, and he's not thinking about it the way a lot of people approach a guitar. He's just kind of like, what would kind of sound cool? And so he's moving around between chords and coming up with riffs that have nothing to do with convention. And you know, in this earlier period, it just is such a strange amateurish quality, but like really artistic and just like like there's no block in the creativity. It's just very like stream of consciousness creativity on with these riffs. He's just figuring out how to play a guitar, and when he finds something that's pretty cool, he puts it on the album. And it just so happens that he has great taste, because the things that he landed on, these riffs that he found that he thought were pretty cool enough to put songs on, these riffs hold up. They're still incredible. And so I'm a pretty massive fan of that. Bug, of course, is that original lineup. Delicious album. 10 out of 10. Not anything that I want to skip. Incredible. That's my thoughts on Bug.
Good. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Next.
Let's try to predict each other's top 3.
Okay.
I will predict that your opinion is Bug at number 3, Beyond at number 2, and Without a Sound at number 1. And I don't want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. We'll find that out later.
Okay. I will predict for you. So I'm going to predict that you put Beyond at number 1. And so that leaves, so I guess you're Living All Over Me at 2 and Without a Sound at 3 is my guess for you.
Well, cool. All right, let's put our stuff up there. So my number 3, you got correct. It's Without a Sound.
Cool.
What's yours?
My number 3 is Beyond.
Oh, interesting. I think I had this one for you at number 2. Yeah. Well, cool. All right. I'll go ahead and start it off with my thoughts on Without a Sound. I do want to pull up their discography on my phone just so I can think through that. So this album, I don't understand why it gets any hate at all.
I agree 100%. Sorry.
People are like, this album is them selling out. No, it is not. This album is not that.
Absolutely not.
No, this album's nuts. This album is really, really creative. And I guess there's like more pretty moments. If you call that selling out, why? They're just making beautiful music like they always have, and there's still plenty of freaking insanity. I say songwriting is high on this album. It's really good. Like they're just writing beautiful music like they always have. That's what's going on here. And there's no lack in creativity here. There's so much substance here. This album is top to bottom. Every track is like masterfully written and created and thought of and played and executed. Everything here, I just completely love it. And I don't understand how people don't think in that way. Beginning with Feel the Pain, which is the thing that really broke them into the mainstream because they got that music video directed by Spike Jonze on MTV where they're playing random golf in New York City. I've never heard a song that's anything like this song. Feel the Pain is the first Dinosaur Jr. song I ever heard. It was on Guitar Hero World Tour. It was like, oh, interesting, because I'm a huge fan of Guitar Hero and Rock Band games. Collect them and play them and all that. Man, Feel the Pain. That was the first time I heard that song. It's like, wow, I've never heard a song that can like have this sort of weird riff where it just kind of like it arpeggiates, you know, and then it just goes like one note, just like what's going on. And then the tempo up and down, up and down, up and down. I've never heard, and they do it in sync, you know, but when you hear it, it's its own explanation of why they would do it. It makes so much sense when you hear it. There's just not songs like Feel the Pain out there. It's such an intensely creative song. And it's wild that it's so intensely creative and boundary pushing, but also it fits so well as a pop song. It really does, because structurally, verses, choruses, a bridge section, the energy level, it just seems so appropriate, but it's so nuts how they executed any of that stuff. This entire song, every bit of it, it's like, how in the world did you think of an idea like that? And every idea about this song is like that. Every idea. Incredible stuff. Feel the Pain. It's one of the most classic Dinosaur Jr. songs. It's, you know, like I said, it was my entryway. It was the first one that I saw. It's the entry point. Probably is for tons of people. Maybe for them, it's because they saw it on MTV. Maybe they're like me and they heard it in Guitar Hero because I'm not that old. This album came out before I was born. But that's it. And then Out There, or wait. Okay, here's my, yeah. Oh, yeah. So track 2 is I Don't Think So. Dude, the singing is so good on it. It's so good. It's just a beautiful song. And they do like these harmony things. And man, just such awesome playing. And whenever they stop, like at the end of the chorus, they like do a bump, bump. And then there's like a vocal lead into the verse. It's sick. It's really cool. And there's so many solos. And of course, this song, man, goodness sakes, dude, it's just so good. And then you listen to more. There's like, yeah, right. And then there's Out of Hand, which is like this beautiful. This is another one of those like acoustic songs, like we were talking about, where it's just executed so well. And then there's Grab It, which amazing. One of the best on the album. Is it my favorite? I'm not sure. Honestly, Feel the Pain, I think, is more genius level. So it's probably my favorite, but Grab It is super up there for me. Man, this album is unstoppable. And I'm noticing that I'm literally just looking at the track list right now and thinking, goodness sakes, I could just keep going, you know?
Same. Yep.
This album is, I would say that you can hear Dinosaur Jr.'s genius on this album. Genius in in kind of any piece of it. You know, whether they're just writing really beautiful music, that's there. Whether they're just writing incredibly creative things with ideas that are just completely unheard of, it's here. Incredible soloing. The mixing is really cool, and clever. I think it's not exactly normal, like the way that you would mix an album, but it's awesome. And I think it adds a lot to the album. Man, there's just so many moments on this album that make me love it so much. And sometimes I think this is my favorite Dinosaur Jr. album. Sometimes I also think that about Bug. Um, yeah, this is it's like impossible how good and how smart this album is. Maybe this is the smartest Dinosaur Jr. album. Maybe that's something to say about it. It sounds more genius than their other stuff. Yeah. All right, man. That's kind of my thoughts on Without a Sound. Go ahead with Beyond.
Yeah. Oh man, wait till when I get to Without a Sound. Well, I guess all three of these I have a lot to love. Beyond. So this is when they bring back. So they don't make an album for 10 years, and they come back with the original lineup for the first time since Bug, and they make this Beyond. I have it. They make this. And in a weird way, something about the groove of this, it reminds me of my favorite band. They're called Real Estate. Now, Real Estate doesn't sound anything at all like Dinosaur Jr., but I feel like if Real Estate, if they made an album and they tried to sound like Dinosaur Jr., it would sound similar to this. There's this total awesomeness to it, I guess, the only way I can think of to describe it. Like right from the very first track, was Almost Ready. Like it starts on that solo, or I guess the lead line. I could not stop smiling this entire album. It's ridiculous. Yeah. All of it. And it's this total, the soloing is awesome. The groove, I think, is what sells me for this on this, and yeah, just something about the singing, I guess trying to compare it to Real Estate, which again is a band that's nothing like this. The song This Is All I Came to Do. This has been pretty much my go-to song for the past few weeks. Like if I'm driving to work, if I'm driving home, I'm just playing this. I love the way they use the minor chords in there. It's ballistic. And it's like, yeah, it's so pretty. It's so awesome. It's this total celebration of Dinosaur Jr. and this celebration of music. I mean, I think it may be the most fun Dinosaur Jr. album, I guess. Trying to think of what else. And the guitar sound, like it's similar to Where You Been. The guitar sounds incredible. It's just everything. The soloing. So it's actually this one and Without a Sound. I want to just turn this off and go listen to those right now. It's like, it's so super, but also so completely. It's so much Dinosaur Jr. and it's really refreshing having the three of them back at it. I guess so. That is, and it's one I always find something new to love whenever I turn this on. Almost Ready, Crumble. What else is there? We're Not Alone. It was like every note I have is just, I don't even know what to say. I love this. I love all of this. That is Beyond.
Dude, here's my question. When you said that Give a Glimpse of What You're Not reminds you of another album that sounds similar, this is it, huh?
This is it. Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I forgot about it. And you're right. Yeah, this is the one, because it's fun. It's like the most fun album ever. Yeah,
dude, that's just the sound. This I agree. It is a really fun album. Yep. Well, let's go to number 2. So I already know that I got your number 2 wrong because I said it was Beyond. So I'm gonna guess it's Bug. Am I right?
No, my number two is Without a Sound. But you know what my number one is now.
Yes, I do. I bet I can
so,
predict it accurately.
so was I right when I guessed that Beyond was your one and Living All Over Me was your number two?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay.
Yep, you got it. You got the 3 exactly right. Uh, okay, since I've already talked about Without a Sound, it's you're up.
As it were. Okay, so Without a Sound, yeah, I have it here. So early on when I was listening to Dinosaur Jr., back when I finally decided I liked them, I was like, yeah, this is easily one of their absolute best, like no question. And then me being a nerd was going on online, and I was kind of surprised people were putting this album like really low, and they're like, Feel the Pain is good, and then there's a lot of filler. I totally completely 100% disagree with that. So actually, I Feel the Pain was the same for me. The first song I ever heard, I played it on Rock Band 2 when I was really little. Yeah, because that was me before I really listened to music. I was like 7 or 8, probably. No, maybe a little older. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was really cool how the song would just randomly speed up. And I was like, I've never heard it. I didn't know you could do that in a song. It's almost like they broke the rules, which again is something Dinosaur Jr. does a lot. I didn't know that at the time, but yeah, I thought this was a cool song. And then I forgot about it for like a long time for whatever reason. I just forgot. Because I guess I stopped playing Rock Band 2. I don't know. But yeah, then when I remembered, oh yeah, Feel the Pain, I like that song. So I'll listen to some Dinosaur Jr. And this album is so freaking emotional for me. It's one of the most emotional albums ever. Ring off my nose. I mean, like emotionally, this is like getting hit with a sledgehammer. It's heart wrenching. It's crushing. It's just this most internal level. It destroys me, and it does that on every song. And it's me. I like the sad music, but it's melancholy. Where it's really happy and really sad. And this album is really happy and really sad at the same time. There's this, like, you're totally defeated, but you're still smiling, or you're still, I don't know. So with our friend group, when we look for discs, we play a game called This Is You, where you find a disc that's funny or random, and you say, this is you. Okay, well, this is me. It's like, I feel, and it's that dumb cliche where it's like, I hate to say like, oh, this is the soundtrack to my life, but it's like this, I feel it's so personal. It's like, it's so engaging. Wow. And it's like this, I feel like this was made for me because I love it so much.
This is you.
That is me, yes. Unfortunately, but it's like, yeah, it's as much of a cliche as that is. It's so I want to make a whole video on every song. Like the song Even You, is that one chord where it's like, wow, and when it hits that, it just wrecks me. It's unbelievable. It's so, yeah, it's euphoria in music form. It's and it's me, I guess. Yeah, but I love this album.
Great. Yeah, me too. Definitely get what you're saying. It is very emotional. I didn't really touch on that at all, but wow, it sure is.
Well, sorry. When you're done talking, I have one more thing I wanted to say.
Go right ahead.
Well, I knew you liked this album. I knew you would put it higher than most people, thankfully. I didn't know you would put it this high, but I'm obviously glad you did, because I like it. I like it this much.
Yeah, to me, I think that it absolutely has a different sound. It's cleaner in a lot of parts, but I think that what people kind of fail to understand is that Dinosaur Jr. has always just been writing beautiful music.
Yep.
That's the thing. This doesn't feel like a change in direction to me at all. And I think that a lot of people get that wrong whenever they rank it so low, because they say this isn't Dinosaur Jr. Like, they're more wild and noisy or whatever. There's so much of that here.
Yeah.
There's so much. But also, when you listen to an album like Bug, or when you listen to an album like You're Living All Over Me, they're just making beautiful songs. That's what they're doing. That's it. That's the point. And to me, that's the disconnect. Why people rank it so low. I think without a sound, that is. Well, cool. Uh, Let me talk about "You're Living All Over Me." Uh, this is the album with where like every guitar riff is, wow, that's weird. How did you land on that? Like you really got a guitar and you decided that that was going to be the riff. Every song is like that for me. It's so strange. And but it's funny because it's so basic. But
Oh yeah.
you know, it's like caged chords a lot of the time, but they're put together in ways that are magical. Um, yeah, the riffing on this album is totally, totally cool. And then the bass playing on this album also, I mean, it's really like peak. I would say this is peak creativity for Dinosaur Jr. because everyone's just figuring out what the heck to do and how they're going to do it. And the decisions that they came to um, feel so personal because no one else would play like any of the guys play on this album. And this is the perfect era for that because eventually they all get better at their instruments. And so they're like, oh, this is sort of like they'll go on to play things that are more conventional sometimes, you know? And that's not to say that they make conventional music, but I would say their creative peak is here because they're figuring it out and they're just coming to conclusions on their own and together. And they're reacting to what each other's doing. And it feels sort of like meticulous, like they really sat in their bedroom and were like, how the heck do you even play this thing? And they came to this album. Okay. Now, if I was to go track for track, I don't think I would be able to stop myself exactly. um, Now, moment wise, there's tons. There's tons. The beginning of this album is so weird. It's just screaming bloody murder over insane amounts of noise, and then it just kind of turns into a catchy pop song. And it sounds very natural as well. And then, I mean, there's noise all over this thing. It's strange. It's sort of like, you know, people who run marathons, they'll overtrain. That way, when they're going to run the marathon, it feels like they're doing less than they're used to, you know? That way they're really comfortable with what they're doing because they've trained beyond what they need to be capable of. And on the first song, Little Fury Things, on this album, I think the first thing that hits you with all that loud noise and the screaming bloody murder stuff, it overtrains you in such a way that whenever the song comes in and it's like you interpret it as because the song comes in, it's still incredibly noisy, blisteringly loud, totally insane sounding. But compared to what you just heard, it's so peaceful and beautiful and catchy and poppy, and it's they set you up in such a way where you interpret the rest of the album based on what you heard at the beginning of the album, and intentional or not, you know. I mean, I think they were just trying to write a cool song with a cool part. And this album's still pretty earlier in their career, so they're pretty influenced by hardcore, and so it's part of their sound. You know, it's part of the subtext of the album, of the sound of the album. And I think this is so interesting. I mean, in man, like you think about some of the songs here, like The Lung. You know, there's In a Jar, like you talked about earlier with the transition between Tar Pit into In a Jar. Of course, Sludge Feast, which changes keys so often, you know, and they're not thinking about it in that way, though, I don't think. I think this is a good example, Sludge Feast, of when you think about the riff changing keys just at different random parts. This is really a good example of someone just sitting in their room being like, this sounds cool. And they don't know that they're breaking a rule. They're just playing chords after one another because it's cool. But it's really unique and different. And it really is cool though. That's the thing. I think that's one of the reasons why Dinosaur Jr. is successful, is because they hear it and kind of instinctually and impulsively, they're like, that sounds awesome. It doesn't matter why it sounds awesome, but it's immediate. It immediately, you just know that sounded awesome. And so that's what we're going to do on the album. And this whole album is that. It's stuff that is just so immediate. You hear it and you instantly know the reason why they put on the album. You just know. You don't really have to think too critically when you listen to this album to understand its brilliance. It's just so, it's simple. It's simple, incredible music that's immediate and so unique and so creative and so noisy and rather obnoxious at times. And it's harsh and it's amateurish. And it just sounds like you recorded it in a garage. This album, it's so organic and genuine, you know? It's just it's like a perfect garage band type of album. That's really what it is. It's like the epitome of what it means to be a band in your garage. Man, this album is great. It's a really good album. And it's like you said too, the Polito, I don't care about that. I mean, that needs to be said because we're, you know, I guess I can't really think of much negative to say about the album other than Polito.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect anything, and it's not like it's just a weird thing, Polito. But man, it's at the end. I mean, it affects nothing about the album. Yeah. So it's all the way up here at number 2 for me. And this is probably a common favorite for a lot of Dinosaur Jr. fans, and it makes sense why, you know?
Yeah.
And it's certainly a favorite of mine. And again, Bug is a 10 out of 10. Without a Sound is a 10 out of 10. And this one, I mean, is a 10 out of 10, and then Polito.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
All right.
Huh.
Well, let's discuss our number 1 picks. And I got yours completely wrong. I said you'd have Bug in 3rd. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense to me that you like Bug. I wouldn't have said it was 1st though. I would not have said that.
Sure.
So since I've been talking, I'll let you talk.
Yeah. So this is Bug. It's right here, and this is actually I bought this pretty recently. I'm trying to remember. I bought this in Colorado. I know that. Bug. Okay. So now while we're on albums that wreck me, so this album mentally, like I guess mental structure, this album broke me. Like when I first started all this, working chronologically, I listened to the debut and I was like, this is really awesome. And then I listened to You're Living All Over Me. And also this was in the morning, by the way. And then I listened to You're Living All Over Me. And I was like, this is really awesome. And then I listened to Bug and I was floored. I didn't listen to anything again until like the next morning, like the next day, because I had to just stop and think. Because it was like, and we've talked in our friend group, in our group chats, like music that is just like really bad. And it's like to the point where it's like, I can't believe that this is real. Like, how does this even exist? But this is the opposite. This is the epitome of, this is so freaking good.
Yeah.
I can't even understand. Like, I can't even believe this is real. So going through, I want to go through every song. Yeah. Freak Scene. I mean, they're all awesome. I will say for now, I think They Always Come is my favorite Dinosaur Jr. song, in that it is the peak of being completely infinitely loud, but also being absolutely beautiful at the same time. It's the best. And yeah, you talk about again just the, I guess, emotional, or the how sad it is, but it's also it's really fun. It's like, yeah, I mean, I say that for all these. It's like nothing else. The song Budge. So there's the part of the song where the guitars and the bass is da, 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 and they're doing it at the same time. I think both of those, it may be the best guitar tone and best bass tone ever, and they're on the same song and they're playing at the same time, they're playing the same thing, and it just yeah, I don't even know, I can't even describe it. I love so I will go back to, Tyler talked about the song Don't a lot, and I'll say well, yeah, so that's the really angry one. I honestly, I don't like that song. However, it is interesting. It might be the angriest song I've ever heard. It's because like they're screaming for like a few minutes at a time, and they stop, and they go back at it, and I find it, even if I don't enjoy it, I think it's really, yeah, it's interesting. It's like nothing else I've ever heard. It's This album is just a triumph of musical achievement, and I know I'm just going off, but and I guess the last thing I have to say, yeah, it's perfection. It's like I said, I didn't listen to anything for like a whole day because I was just blown out of my mind. So we talked about, Jay Mascis said, so he said hand it over, his favorite. Apparently he says this one is his least favorite Dinosaur Jr. album, which it's my favorite. I think it's the best.
Gosh,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, Bug is really good. It's weird for me to think about it as my number four because it's maybe the one that interests me the most. I guess that's because there's so much on it that's unlike anything I've ever heard. And they do a lot of really bold things. And I guess you were talking about in that song, the guitar riff and the bass riff happen at the same time. That's a good example. When I talked about Bug, I was talking about the interesting textures that are on that album. That's a great example of one right there. Another one that I thought it was interesting. You said that They Always Come is your current favorite Dinosaur Jr. song. That's a good pick. I mean, it's so good. And by the way, you know how I feel about this. Audience probably doesn't know. I love when you get a good crash on two.
Yes.
They're all over this song.
I forgot to mention that, but yeah, it keeps hitting that the whole song.
It's sick. Yeah, man. So yeah, really cool. Let me talk about my favorite Dinosaur Jr. album, Beyond. It's the first one after their hiatus when they're coming back in 2007. The original lineup. 11 out of 10. This album is. Dude, the first Dinosaur Jr. thing I ever learned how to play on my guitar was the guitar solo of Almost Ready at the very beginning. The other one too, but the first thing was the first guitar solo that just opens the album. And by the way, I mentioned to you that there's a particular Dinosaur Jr. album that has the best solos of any of them. It is this one. It is absolutely this one. Sound-wise and playing-wise, more inspired than anything else they've done. Gosh, the songwriting is so good. All the melodies are so good. Every song is immediate. Like, you just know every song is a good song the first time you hear it. Every single one of them is like that. And there's so much fascinating instrumental work on all over this album. Gosh, there is so many cool effects on this album, so much cool noise. And I think they're thinking a lot more compositionally with how they're using noise, not letting it be quite as random. They're like, I want to do the noise in a particular way. And a lot of times Dinosaur Jr. is just kind of noisy, with a little bit less thought about it being a composition of noise, but they're really using noise to high intelligent levels or whatever. Let me go look at the track list here. Oh man, I don't want to begin. Oh gosh, it's perfect song, perfect song, perfect song, perfect song. That's how I'm feeling. And even Back to Your Heart, it's a Lou song, and a lot of times I feel like Lou songs are just kind of letdowns. Dude, Back to Your Heart is a great Lou song, maybe the best Lou song. Oh my goodness, perfect song, perfect song. We're Not Alone has just an okay beginning, but it's a great song. Uh, I mean, and then like in We're Not Alone, there's like the tempo change where you start the guitar solo, and oh my goodness, uh, the drums on I Get Lost, freaking sick, so cool. There is so much here, and I like what you said. Let me steal what you said. This is like the most fun Dinosaur Jr. album. Yeah, it is. It truly is. This is and we talked about how this is like we talked about how the sound of Give a Glimpse of What You're Not is like my favorite sound of Dinosaur Jr., and you thought that it reminded you of Beyond. Exactly. Me too. It's my favorite sound of Dinosaur Jr. combined with like the immediacy where you hear every song and you just know it's good. Um, like that of You're Living All Over Me. It's just instantaneous like that. Also, the playing is better than the other albums. Also, the noise is used in more creative ways. And it's the original lineup, and so the chemistry is it's unmatched. And it's their first album in 10 years with the original lineup. There is serious amounts of passion on this album where they're like, yes, we're not just going to be any freaking dumb reunion retro band, We're not going to go around and play at casinos for all the people who used to like us back in the day. That's not what's going on. These people, Dinosaur Jr., proved with the album Beyond that they are like the most relevant rock band today. The most. And they did that in 2007 with like a beyond perfect album. Yep. Did not mean that pun either. Didn't mean that one. Yeah. So those are sort of my thoughts on Beyond. And man, let's take a look at what we've accomplished here.
So I want to thank you, because again, it's about that boundary of music. And for me, I guess, gosh, half the discography is a 10 out of 10. But you said Beyond is an 11 out of 10, which makes me wonder if I would award that as if I would say any of these albums are 11 out of 10. And I think I would say that for my top two. I think Beyond is still a 10. It's still perfect. But Without a Sound and Bug, like, again, they destroyed me, but also they hit me on that level, I guess, where it's like, yeah, I think I'll say that for I don't know. I mean, it's just like, is it an A plus 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 or is it an A plus 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 plus? Like that's what we're dealing with here. But I mean, they're all awesome.
No, that's interesting. I mean, the way I'm saying that Beyond is an 11 out of 10 really, I guess, means that if I was going to make an albums of all time list, this is up there. Greatest albums of all time. I mean, that includes the shirt you're wearing right now.
Hey,
it includes like Beyond by Dinosaur Jr. is that high on my list.
Sure.
I'm completely infatuated with this album, and you said earlier about how Beyond is so fun and you kind of just want to turn this off and listen to it. Maybe we should end the video and do exactly that.
Good.
That's how I feel about Beyond. It's awesome. Yeah. And it's like there's a lot of music where it's like, okay, let me sit down with an album. Like, let me take time out of my day and listen to this album. But if it's Beyond by Dinosaur Jr., it's let me like lack any responsibility, forget anything that I should be doing,
Schedule. Yeah.
and like rearrange everything and like call my family and say, hey, sorry, I'm not coming home for Christmas. That that's how Beyond is.
Yes.
It's so exciting when it pops into my head. It's like I'm going to hear it right now,
Yeah.
and I don't, you know, oh man, it's that type of thing for me. Yeah. So 11 out of 10.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, cool. Let's wrap up our video. I would like to thank our viewers for viewing this video about a band, Dinosaur Jr., that I think deserves so much more credit for what they've done in music in general and all the bands that they've inspired with their incredible sound. I want to congratulate Dinosaur Jr., even though they'll never see the video, on just the most incredible body of work that, like, are you making music just for me? I really appreciate you saying, you know what, let's write songs that Tyler Holloway would really like. And then they just made this discography. Thanks. I want to say thanks for the personal gift that you guys have given me. So Joe, have anything to say before we wrap up at all?
No, I just want to listen to all of these again and keep listening and never stop. And I will also say thank you for the music you created for Joe Pauly, especially Without a Sound, because that's who I am. I mean, if you talk about like an album like defines me, I guess, and not that it like, well, that's kind of weird because that's a really sad album. It makes me sound like really sad, but it's like if this is an album that represents me, I guess is a better way of putting it, a representation of what I like to listen to. It's that one. And it's not even my favorite either. That's the best part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have to say. In terms of thanking the band. Yeah.
Dude, this has been fun. All right, we're gonna end the video. Subscribe.
You guys.
Okay, me and Joe during the video both forgot to show certain CDs. The ones that I forgot to show and never showed during the video. I didn't really show this one. I kind of did. But this one here, I forgot to show it. I forgot to show Bug. I forgot to show Beyond. I forgot to show You're Living All Over Me. Joe, what did you forget to show?
So I actually have one that's not an album, but it's so it's called Whatever's Cool with Me. And I think this actually, Jay Mascis owned a bulldog. I think this might be actually it. I'm not sure, but it could be. If it is, that's cool. But yeah, this is B-sides Around the Time of Green Mind. I was just telling Tyler I didn't rank it or anything because, like, honestly, I need to hear it again. I remember liking it. It's pretty good, but I was spending all my time with all the studio albums, but there's this one here that I wanted to show. And then, well, I guess I did show this one, Ear Bleeding Country.
Yeah, we showed that.
So those are all the ones I have.
Cool. Video end.